Welcome to Game Over Edmonton. The Edmonton Oilers fall today to the Dallas Stars 3-1 in a game that probably shouldn't have ended that way, but Jake Ottinger had a lot of impact on this one, and we will talk about that. I'm here with Matt Henderson, aka Archaeologuy on Twitter, a huge Oilers analyst and fan that's going to bring the Oilers perspective for us tonight, and also Kaya May, as you know from Game Over Vancouver, who will bring all of the bitterness and Oilers hatred. No, I'm just kidding. We'll be fair. We'll be fair. I'm sure Kaya is still not fully over it, but you know what? I didn't get a chance to say it on stream. It was a fantastic season for the Vancouver Canucks. Like we
Oh,
can't deny it,
yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. I get to work on a bit of basically eulogizing the Canucks season for some school related thing. But yeah, no, I think it was a great season. I was a doubter, especially at the beginning. Did I think it was going to happen this way? Yeah, when we got into the playoffs, I really thought they were going to walk the Oilers, so that's why it was a little bit hard to take. But otherwise, I mean, now I don't have to be worried about being sad when we have to play Chris Tanev. So,
Oh, well. And here I thought the Canucks were just a bunch of pretenders riding on PDO and had absolutely no chance and will
yeah.
never be able to repeat that next year.
Yeah, and Pedersen, he faked his injury apparently. So,
Just trying to get out already.
yeah.
Always fun in Vancouver. All right. Before we get started, I got to tell everyone, yes, we are broadcasting for Game Over Edmonton from the Game Over Network Hub channel for the playoffs. But in October, when things restart in earnest, when we have most of our hosts back that are covering these teams from their local markets, Game Over Edmonton will be on the Game Over Edmonton channel, which you can find by clicking the Game Over Network uh, channel link, I guess, below this video, and then scrolling down to the bottom to our featured channel section, click on the Game Over Edmonton channel, click subscribe, then hit the drop down menu, hit that reminder bell because YouTube has to make everything difficult now. You can't just subscribe to somebody, you also have to double subscribe. So smash that for Edmonton. It really helps us. And also like this video if you're watching right now, because the way that YouTube algorithm works, the only way we can be successful is with your help. So please like it, please share it with your friends, especially your Oilers fan friends for this one because it's an Oilers stream. And join the conversation. Jump in the chat. I see David W here is joining us and Adam Firebear as well. Great to see you both. It's been fun to see our Game Over friends jump back in the chats from all sorts of different markets during this playoff launch, but rest assured we've got a lot more cool, fun plans for the next season. But let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers because the first period was all Oilers. Almost embarrassingly so. And even the broadcast said they were shocked at how little control Dallas had over the game. But Jake Ottinger stood extraordinarily tall and allowed the Stars to come out of that period tied 1-1. And that was, in effect, the game, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah. I'd say that was probably the story of the game, is them coming out of that first period tied 1-1. Dallas could not have asked for anything more. And the Oilers, I thought, had played one of the best periods of hockey that you could ask for from their skaters. I thought the Skinner goal was a little bit weak, but then he was solid after that. And the Oilers really carried play. And for me, when I was watching them in the first period specifically, I thought uh, their breakouts had been just absolutely impeccable. Whatever adjustments they made from game one to game two, I think they really picked apart the forecheck. And in that first period, they knew exactly what they were going to do with that Dallas forecheck. Uh, and really controlled the game. And then what happened? Oh, I have lost your sound. I
Andrew,
cannot
you're
hear.
muted.
Right, my mic is muted, of course. Uh, so basically, I was a little bit nervous seeing Skinner because that first shot going in,
Yeah.
the troubles that he had to start the playoffs, the troubles that he had to start the year, I was like, oh no, are we reversing back? But I thought his mental toughness to stick in this game with not much to do was pretty impressive in a losing effort. Like
Yeah.
the Oilers threw everything in the kitchen sink at Ottinger and couldn't get through, which it was going to happen one of these 7 games, right? It was going to happen. And I think what I'm looking at with the Oilers in perspective, like looking forward from this game, is that's 2 games in a row now where at even strength they've been beyond dominant at
Yeah,
the road, not able to dictate matchups,
that's right.
and that didn't carry through super well through the second and third period where Dallas did push back, but the fact that they are able to control play so much at even strength when the penalties aren't being called, moving back to Edmonton here, I think they're in a pretty strong position. How are you feeling, Kaya?
I think that yeah, for the Oilers especially. I was also worried with Stuart Skinner letting in that one because yeah, 1 goal on 1 shot is probably not great. I watched a junior game last night that was 4 goals on 16 shots. So, um, and the other team was throwing the kitchen sink at our goalie too. So, yeah, if Edmonton had 4 times the shots that Dallas did, and they were still tied. Jake Ottinger is absolutely standing on his head. Um, and yeah, for once, Stuart Skinner did not lose the Edmonton Oilers a game.
No,
But well, that was kind of a theme, to be fair. For a for just gestures vaguely
no,
to
absolutely,
the
absolutely
postseason.
no. Stuart Skinner for the first uh, 7 games of the season, or the postseason, or first 8 games of the postseason. Pretty scary results if you're an Oilers fan. You just aren't sure what shot is going to make it to the back of the net. But tonight he was really good. And to be fair, if you're an Oilers goaltender and you only let in 2 goals on the night, you're expecting a win. Like,
Yeah,
the Oilers score more than 2 all the time. So,
Well,
yeah, almost.
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 All the wins, they score
Yeah,
more than 2, right?
but you expect the Oilers to score more than that, right?
Yeah.
You don't expect the only goal scorer of the night to be Connor Brown. That's
yeah, that
Nobody
was.
had that on their card.
No,
uh,
the wrong Connor, but that's our. The other Connor was great though. I have to say, like, um, the matchup that I kept on watching in this game specifically, because in the first game I was watching, the McDavid line really crushed the Robertson line. It was not close, and I was shocked that Dallas didn't flip that matchup more as the game went on in game one. And I'm not sure why they didn't make that adjustment, especially when it came to like overtime. Maybe it was just too taxing to run the bench that way. But in this one, they very clearly kept Robertson away from Connor McDavid for the first 2 periods and put him against Leon Draisaitl. And Robertson's line really held Draisaitl's line to the fire. It was not pretty. And then by the third period, it seemed like Robertson had his feet under him really well. And the Stars as a team were just really not allowing the Oilers to push through the middle of the ice there. And it became once the Stars got the lead, I feel like they're a very different team. Like yesterday, or not yesterday, sorry, in the game one when the Oilers had the lead, they're a good defensive team, but they're not like a close it off defensive team, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They still have some vulnerabilities, and it seemed like the Oilers just could not break through the Stars trap once it was 2-1, and things didn't find a way to work. And I think a lot of it had to do with that coaching adjustment, flipping Robertson more towards Draisaitl in the first 2 periods, because that matchup, like taking Robertson's line out of it in the first
Yeah.
game, really hurt the Stars. And
Well,
having him back in there now, it looks like much more of a series.
and I didn't like the coaching choices by the Oilers on the flip side later in the game as well. They eventually started putting Leon and McDavid together instead of having them on separate lines, probably in response to Robertson doing as well as he did. Uh, but when they load up on Leon and McDavid, it really leaves the rest of the lines vulnerable. Uh, and then if you can withstand that storm, then you're going to have a much easier time the rest of the game. And then of course you have CC out there doing CC things constantly, and late in the game they put CC and Nurse back together, which was an absolute disaster during the Vancouver series. So some coaching choices that I did not care for as an Oilers fan, and I think we're gonna hopefully see some changes in the next game.
I feel like in some capacity, like the McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman line is sometimes like an act of desperation. It feels like from the Oilers bench. But also it feels like the CC and Nurse pairing would exactly counteract that. That's like if you're getting
Yeah.
too confident in the team. Um, because yeah, you load up your best three players on one line, and it's not to overly mention Vancouver tonight, but like that's I think why Vancouver, specifically Rick Tocchet, is so hesitant about the Lotto line, which is Pettersson, Miller, and Besser, because it's three of your best forwards on one team. I mean, granted, according to some people, they're not the three best forwards, but
Yeah.
in my heart they are. But so that was a mainstay during the bubble playoffs, but now it's like rarely used because you lose so much of that depth. Whereas even though like yeah, you can see it that way, they're trying to get some offense going. Your fourth line is the one who scored your only goal tonight. Give them more of a chance than just completely messing up the lines.
Yeah.
And I mean, Knobloch is not the only coach to mix up the lines. DeBoer also does it quite a lot as well with Dallas, but I feel like Knobloch's is predictable, whereas DeBoer is always kind of
Yeah, you'll see for the Oilers when they're at their best, they do put McDavid, Hyman, and Draisaitl together, but they'll do it after a successful penalty kill, or they'll do it right after a TV timeout, so everyone has lots of fresh legs, and then they'll move right back into their regular line. So they'll do it sparingly, and they'll do it like with lots of context and situationally. And tonight, halfway through the third period, that was completely abandoned, and it was just a McDavid and Draisaitl line, and I think that takes a lot of the wind right out of the sails, and it also puts players like Nugent Hopkins in a worse position because now he's playing center, and while he's played lots and lots of center in the NHL, he's actually much more effective offensively as a winger. So you're trying to score goals, and you're taking the wind right out of the sails for your second and third lines when you're doing stuff like that.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but it works really good, like you said, as the pushback shift. And
Yeah.
I'm watching the matchups that Dallas is trying to chase with McDavid, and it's pretty clear through two games now that their main thing that they want is at least one of Lindell, Tanev, or Heiskanen out against McDavid. And also, so far, it doesn't matter. They're getting eaten alive. Like, I thought Esa Lindell played a great game tonight, and still, what was the matchup against McDavid was 21 shot attempts to 6.
Yeah.
Like shots on goal was 7-3. No goals, obviously, so I guess you could say Lindell won that matchup by virtue of the fact that McDavid wasn't scoring. But against those three, McDavid's expected goals for percentage through two games. Oh, wait, no, that's just tonight. Sorry. Through two games is 60% against Lindell, 62.5% against Tanev, and 81.9% against Heiskanen.
Yeah.
So I guess Dallas has kind of just given up on that matchup and tried to eat away at Leon's ice time, which I guess that's what you have to do, right? Is you have to limit the damage with your best defenseman and try to go after other weak or weaker areas, I guess.
I mean, if you're playing against the Oilers, that has to be your game plan, right? Saw off McDavid as best as you possibly can, and just pray that you can outscore everyone else. That has to be it. And it's not just McDavid, because I think you tweeted something earlier in the night. I mean they play as a 5-man unit, that top line. And so you've got Ekholm and Bouchard is just an absolute possession uh, and expected goals monster right now. Like he, when he's on the ice, the puck is in the offensive zone. Period.
100%. All right, before we move on to our next thing, we're going to talk about the penalties or lack thereof so far in this series because it's been pretty tightly called. I mean, I guess tightly called is the wrong word, loosely called. And how that favors not the Oilers. But hey, the Oilers are still dominating even strength, so it's good. But before we do, got to tell you about where to find Game Over Winnipeg next season. Game Over Winnipeg is broadcasting from the Game Over Network channel for right now during the playoffs. However, in October, the network relaunches for real, and Game Over Winnipeg gets its own channel. So for all of your Winnipeg Jets content, fun, news, and analysis, head on over to the Game Over Winnipeg channel from the Game Over Network channel. Open it in a new tab right now, scroll past my ugly mug, all the way down, and click on the Winnipeg channel from our featured channels section. Click subscribe, and make sure you hit that reminder bell so that you get notified whenever we post a video or go live. Tell all your Jets fan friends and family to come check out our awesome community. We promise they won't regret it. And make sure on this video you smash that like button right into oblivion. All right, we are back. So I'll start with you, Kaya, because I feel like Oilers fans, Canucks fans, and Canadiens fans are the triumvirate of hating on the refs. The Leafs fans think they can come for that title, but no, they just hate everyone, including themselves, and hate in and of itself does not drive ref hate. But I think we can all commiserate in that the way that the NHL officiates games is not good. And in this series so far, there's been very, very few penalties. How bad do you think this impacts the Oilers' chances of moving on? Because the Stars seem to really like this style of play.
I feel like if it does impact the Oilers, it's not going to be as bad because the Oilers, they do have, their amazing power play, but they haven't really been using it properly. Like, I was really surprised when Vancouver started actually killing off Oilers penalties, and I think they've had one power play goal in the last. It was up there like 15 or 20 power plays, which is a lot, especially for the Edmonton Oilers who are dominant with such like a top-loaded power play core. I think it to a detriment. There is it is detrimental to the Oilers' success in the series, also because I just feel like Dallas also is a bit more rough than Edmonton. Even though Edmonton kept trying to run Jake Ottinger, but that's besides the point.
You're not cheating, you're not trying.
That's true.
I mean, I'd be a hypocrite. Chris Kreider's my favorite Ranger, so.
Oh God.
Yeah. I was like, I just got fired from Game Over. But I think it is a bit of a detriment to them. But it's kind of forcing them to produce 5-on-5, which I think is good for them. I do still think Dallas has the upper hand though, because of yes, while the Oilers' depth is scoring, they also have like their captain being a force offensively and defensively, which I can't believe I'm giving JB Ben praise right now, but I am. Or just the and I'm not saying that McDavid and Draisaitl haven't shown up, but like Dallas is covering all sides of the board, whereas I feel like Edmonton still has some cracks in it.
Yeah, I'll flip that a little bit because through 2 games now, it's pretty clear Edmonton has the advantage at even strength. Also, I believe Edmonton's killed off, 20 straight penalties, Matt? So if Edmonton's PK stays this strong and they're continuing to dominate at even strength, we all love to crap on the refs because, let's face it, the NHL puts them in a position where they deserve it. But
no one can complain more about the refs than the Canucks, but I will try my best. I will do my best to complain about them more.
Anytime you watch McDavid just being like hooked by 12 people at a time and you're like, there's only supposed to be 5 on the ice, it's hard not to get annoyed at the refs. But I guess my point with this is like for Oilers fans and how they view this series, does it even matter? Because if you're this strong on the PK and controlling the play at even strength, should it be a focus?
I don't think so. I don't think it needs to be right now. Uh, right now, 5-on-5, I think they are controlling the play, and I think they've shown that they can control the play, and which is really important going back to home ice, right? I mean, they're going to get their matchups moving forward for the next 2 games, but even when they didn't, they still had control, and that penalty kill is lifting them. It's boosting them. They're not giving anything up, and it's really hard to say that, lack of power play goals and lack of power play time is what's hurting the Oilers, because really it hasn't been. In terms of the special teams play, the Oilers are still coming out on top because they've killed off so many power plays or from the other team. Like their penalty kill is just incredible. It hasn't been evenly called, right? In the first game, they had to kill off 5 power plays for the Stars to just their one, and it didn't matter if they were holding McDavid and obstructing in any way, shape, or form. They were not getting the calls. Today was a little more evenly called, and ultimately in either game, that wasn't the deciding factor, right?
Can I just say karma? Sorry.
Karma. The Canucks were given everything by the refs in that series.
Okay,
Everything.
okay.
We can't get
Okay,
into
okay,
that.
sure.
There's something
Ask Quinn
absolutely
Hughes' face. Ask Quinn
unhinged
Hughes'
about the
face.
Canucks and their fan base, that even when the refs are bending over backwards to make sure that they're getting every opportunity available, they're still being rained down with booze from above. It is cultural. It is totally insane from the outside. I do not understand it one bit.
Well, I don't know. McDavid and Hyman look like prime Tom Daly out there during round 2, so
Ouch.
uh
Ouch.
We got a comment here from Alan Morris that I think kind of works in well with something else that I was going to mention. He said, feels like Dallas is just getting started. Now, we mentioned earlier in the game, or early in the show, sorry, that the Oilers had a baller first period, right? They had, 67% of the shot attempts, 85% of the expected goals. The rest of the way, it was about 37% in the Oilers' favor in terms of expected goals at 5-on-5. There wasn't as much action in the last 40 minutes as there was in the first, but are the Dallas Stars just winding up? Is this the turning point in that series?
I don't think so.
okay.
No, you go ahead, Kaya.
I was just say I think so because they've also lost every single game 1 that they've had in the last 7 rounds, I think.
Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Edmonton had lost a bunch of game 1s before the first round
before
this year,
this
right?
postseason, yeah.
It was like a lot in a row, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very similar number. It was like 7.
2 teams that hate the beginning.
Yeah.
There was a joke about it on the broadcast tonight, I think, that was like, these 2 teams just really don't want the 2 teams that just don't like winning game 1s. That's why they brought it to second OT, because they just really did not want to.
Nobody wanted it.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally haven't seen anything that, as an Oiler fan, I would be afraid of from the Dallas Stars. We played 2 games, and so far, other than Ottinger, there's nothing that worries me on their team more than I think they would be worried about the Oilers. So I'm not worried about them just starting up. Of course, that's absolute hubris, and will be thrown back in my face should the worst from an Oilers perspective happen. But I'm just not seeing it right now. I just have not seen that yet.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
No, I was going to say, well, we'll talk about what the problems may be for the Oilers, some cracks in the foundation in the next segment. And also, if you're around here and you want to chat with us, After our final segment, we'll stick around for a couple questions from our great stream chat here. If they've got anything they want to ask us about this game, about hockey in general, about life, whatever, what have you, we'll do that. But first, we got to tell you about where to find Game Over Calgary next season, even though I just realized I'm wearing the same shirt as I was wearing when I recorded all these ads a
It's
few
a cool
weeks
shirt.
ago, which is kind of
Game
weird.
Over Calgary is relaunching in October. For all your Game Over Calgary content, make sure you subscribe to our Calgary-specific YouTube channel. Open the Game Over Network YouTube page in a new tab from this video, scroll past Andrew talking, and click on the Game Over Calgary channel in our featured channel section. Click subscribe and make sure you hit the drop-down menu to get notified when we post videos or go live. Tell all your Flames fan friends and family to check it out and join our awesome community. And make sure you smash the like button on this video right into oblivion.
All right, we are back. I'm looking at the Oilers through 2 games here and keeping the rest of the playoffs in mind as well. And I do see one area where the Stars have a pretty big advantage, and that's defensive depth past the first pairing. Obviously, the Oilers' first pairing is excellent. Bouchard and Ekholm would be a top pair on almost any team in the league.
Yeah.
But after that, it's a bit more dicey, and specifically through the first 2 games. I know there's been a lot of push on Darnell Nurse because he's been on for like every goal against, but his overall numbers are not horrible. But Kulak and Ceci are struggling.
Yeah.
As a bona fide Kulak fan from his days in Montreal, I hesitate to blame him for that one. But he does seem to be struggling on the third pair, whether it's with Desharnais or Ceci. Do the Oilers have an option here, Matt, that they could mix things up? Or is this group of 6 the group of 6 and you just have to figure out how to insulate?
I think they have options. I don't think they're ever going to use them. Like they have Stetcher, they have Broberg. They're sitting there in the wings should someone be injured. However, I think Knobloch is going to keep this group of 6, period. And you're right, Kulak has really struggled. And for him, I think it's just been weird mental mistakes. Like I'm not quite understanding some of his decision making out there, and it just seems to be under high pressure situations. He's flubbing the passes and not getting things through. And then the other player for me is Ceci, right? So it's not Nurse, it's Ceci. Ceci is really struggling to make plays with the puck, which of course he also assisted on the goal, the lone.
Yes, he did.
But
it's a weird game.
It was a weird game. But the rest of the night, he really struggled. And, during the second period, when Dallas was really putting it on and applying pressure to the Oilers, it was off of a few CC mistakes in a row where he couldn't get it out of the zone, flubbed a pass that, caused an odd man rush on the way back. He's also just not making plays and he just needs to calm down. But will the Oilers be able to do anything there? I don't think they have the will to put Broberg or Stetcher in.
Yeah, I saw Kai, you reacted. Was it Stetcher or Broberg that you were thinking needs to get in?
It was Stetcher.
I figured.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you, Kaya.
Troy from
He's a good player.
Richmond. He can move the puck. He's a good player. He was really good with Vancouver. But that also might just be bias. But still, I think that they should be exploring more options, especially if Oilers. I mean, it's not like Dallas put a lot on them in the beginning of the game. If the Oilers struggle defensively, because they only had 9 blocked shots, that's kind of yikes.
Yeah. And Stetcher's a guy who keeps it relatively simple too, so he's not a player that you're going to put into the lineup and you're going to be worried is going to, try to clear the puck in front of the crease situation. Like he's a pretty hard-nosed, simple playing defenseman.
The Oilers don't need anyone to do anything fancy.
Right? They've got those guys in the lineup already.
Get the puck out of their own zone. If you can do that, the rest of the game is really easy for those defensemen with the set of forwards that the Oilers have. But when you've got Kulak and Cece making lots of mistakes and they're ending up in the back of the net, that's really undermining the Oilers' chances.
Totally. Matt, are you worried at all about Draisaitl at even strength away from McDavid so far in this series? Because it hasn't been that pretty through 2 games.
Uh, I'm not overly concerned about it, and yet I'm always concerned about it, right? uh, I think that some of his line mates. So when you've got that line of Holloway and Kane and Draisaitl, that line has the ability to make so much magic happen, and also the ability to just completely implode on itself in the defensive zone. Kane is not exactly the best back checker. He's not great in his own zone. He doesn't add much on that side of the ice at all. And I think that's where that line really, really tails off. But long term, I'm not worried about that. I actually think keeping McDavid and Draisaitl separate moving forward has to be the plan. Like
Yes.
it cannot go back to the way the game 2 ended. They have to have them on separate lines, and those 2 lines have to be going. So as an Oiler fan, I can't put too much negativity into that thought. That's just how it has to be for them.
Yeah, I get it. I think Draisaitl, like, you don't need him necessarily to dominate the opposition in terms of shot attempts, right? Because he's going to score or make people score at a higher rate than average, just like McDavid. But McDavid also drives play to such a ridiculous extent. It's
true.
a moot point, right? But Draisaitl, you just need to get him to the offensive zone, and you've kind of done your job. And it's no secret, there's something up with one of his fingers at least.
Yeah.
That might be broken, just like a couple of years ago. I believe he led the playoffs in scoring with one ankle.
Yeah.
The guy just does his job. I've never seen anybody in the playoffs turn it on like Draisaitl. And we talked last show about how, like, I believe McDavid has the exact same or one more point production over the last 3 years as Draisaitl, and Draisaitl gets all the love in the playoffs. But I think the difference is that McDavid scores at that rate in the regular season too, so there's no jump. Whereas Draisaitl goes from Draisaitl scoring in the regular season to McDavid scoring in the playoffs, and it's not supposed to happen that way.
It's really not. The game is supposed to get a lot harder in the playoffs, and he just seems to produce way more. He's a big game player. And he's a big guy. Like, he's made for the playoffs, right? Like, he's just a massive man with huge broad shoulders, protects the puck extremely well. He does all the things that you want for a hard-nosed playoff game. And he just also happens to be an incredible shooter and passer.
I would think that some of that also is shown throughout the regular season, that because he knows he's, good in a lot of other areas, he like his shootout attempts. That's all the reference. That's all. Like, you just know that, okay, so we're gonna make it to the playoffs by coasting on our captain. Awesome. Slap. Like, I think that's where Philip Perona gets the inspiration for trying to do literally anything on the ice, but of course
the problem
he
with the
fails.
shootout attempt is that you can't take it from the goal line, right?
Yes.
You can't score from his spot there. You have to actually try to come down center at some point.
This is very true. You know who else did that a lot? And I don't know if they even give him shootout attempts anymore, is Evgeny Malkin. He never treated it seriously. It's like he hated it. Like, it was the last thing in the world he wanted to do. And I kind of love that about him. And Malkin's another guy that the playoffs come around and he's an absolute beast. I feel like he's the closest comparison for Draisaitl by virtue of also playing under the generational star, right?
He's a great comparison for Draisaitl.
On the ice, I feel like he's just not weird enough though to match
yes.
his energy. Like,
he doesn't post pictures with like tigers and stuff on Instagram.
Unless his entire Instagram feed for a year just becomes Connor McDavid, I don't think it's a complete comparison. But I do kind of see that where it's a bit like Sid and Gino. So wait,
Just no cups yet.
yeah. I mean the Penguins. Maybe they're still letting him do shootouts because yeah, no, they had 12 OT losses. So
Oh, geez.
yeah.
Yeah, the Penguins. We can't get into the Penguins right now because it's too
No.
deep of a dive. That is one mess of a team right now. But that's I think our analysis for the game tonight. I see that there are some questions here. Alan Morris asks, Dallas can and has played better, including in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Can the Oilers match that essentially?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You
can
haven't
get
seen
even better than
the
this?
Oilers power play kick to life. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Right? Like the Oilers have been doing it all 5-on-5 in the first two games. If you want the Oilers to match and improve, you're going to see it there first. Right? Like there's lots of places for the Oilers to improve upon. Whereas, Dallas, obviously they have to have better games in them, but I'm not seeing it right now.
Yeah. Adam Firebear asks, we'll shoot this to Kaya. Will Skinner be able to get through this whole series? I feel like the results after 2 games pretty solid.
I feel like him sitting out those 2 games in the Vancouver series put some perspective. And he's really stepped up since game 6 in round 2. So I do think he will get through the entire series. If Dallas doesn't absolutely score like 5
Yeah.
in one game against him, I think then he's probably going to be the starter for all 3 remaining games. So it's a this is the best run, I think. It is the best run for the McDavid era
It is.
Oilers because they didn't get swept.
That's true.
This is
So
true.
there's
It's
still
the
a
truth.
chance.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
That was such a crazy series too, because I feel like it was extraordinarily close all 4 games.
All 4
in
games.
terms of like the actual play on the ice. But Colorado was
You're
the team.
You're swept. You're swept. You're swept.
Yep.
If Rod Brindamore was the coach for the Oilers at the time, then they wouldn't have been swept. So
Bold.
Well,
Rod
no,
the bod.
that's because what he said last year.
What did he say last year? Sorry.
Well, when Florida swept Carolina in the Eastern Conference Final last year, and he was like, "Oh no, we didn't get swept." Like, no, you did.
You're just delusional?
Like, can you read?
How did I miss this?
Oh yeah, no, it was like after they got eliminated, and I don't know, maybe it was because he meant that because they went to like multiple OTs.
That's got to be a
in
professional
games.
athlete's
So it's
mindset,
more than
where it's
4
just-
games.
All the bad stuff is just gone. It's behind them already. It didn't happen. It didn't. What are you talking about? I wasn't swept.
Guess,
That's
like,
such a
Gatekeep
hockey man
Robots.
thing. Like, isn't that just such a hockey man thing? Like, how often have we seen like stats guys, or not stats guys, but like guys who are there to do stats on broadcasts and stuff, and requested stat packages or whatever? It's like, oh yeah, if you ignore all the losses that this goalie has, he's won every game. It's just,
Sure.
it's so hockey man to
Right.
ignore all the stuff that disproves the thing that you want to
Right.
say.
But in all the wins, he's got a .930 save percentage.
Right? Oh yeah,
no
you gotta
kidding.
look at that.
And why is the goalie always Ilya Samsonov or Stuart Skinner? Like, I feel like those 2 are the goalies that are always there.
Gotta be. All right. Thanks to Matt, the good Matty from Edmonton,
That's right.
the better Matty, and Kaya from Game Over Vancouver for joining me here tonight. It was a fun one. Not a great game for the Edmonton Oilers in terms of result, but I think there's lots of positives in there. I think there's some issues that they need to clean up as well, especially on the defensive side. But overall, I'm excited to see the rest of this series. I feel like the first couple games have just been the little appetizer, and we're going to see a lot more offense out of these 2 teams going forward.
Lots of
because-
building blocks, and if you're an Oilers fan, tied 1-1 after 2 games in Dallas has to be a win.
Exactly, right? You took home ice advantage back. That's all you really can ask for at this stage of the playoffs when the stakes are this high and the teams are this good. So I'm hoping for a long series because I think we deserve it with these two teams and maybe a little bit more scoring. Jake Ottinger, calm down. Enough of this stuff. We don't need this anymore. More goals per game here. No more of this max 3.
They need the Calgary Flames fans back to just curse him like they did in 2022. I feel like
That's right.
The Oilers need to get those guys and bring them up to Rogers Place.
Well, let's see how Dallas likes it going into the loudest building in the NHL.
They're going into Winnipeg?
No, no. We have an airport.
They can fly there. All right. Join us next game after game 3. Peter Klein will be hosting. It'll be a fun one. And for all of us here at Game Over Edmonton, I guess go Oilers.
That's right.
Maybe not for Kaya. All right. See you later, guys.
Go Chris.
Yeah!